Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto Left But Hinata Is Confused. This story is made by lissibear, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Right, left, parry. Hinata desperately dodged and counted each one of Neji's blows. He was so fast she couldn't keep up. She frantically backed up with every strike until there was nowhere to go. Hinata's eyes widened as Neji's palm stopped inches in front of her face. Neji's expression was unreadable as he took in the sight of his opponent. Arms down and eyes frozen in fear, she was completely open for his attack and he shook his head in disappointment. Let's stop here for today. But I can keep going. Hinata stammered. Neji turned his back to his cousin. He'll be leaving soon. We won't be able to see him again for a long time. He shot over his shoulder as he walked away. Hinata felt the heat rise to her face as she watched her cousin's silhouette disappear into the house. She stood there in her embarrassment at his acknowledgement of her feelings. When had he found out? He had never said anything to her before. Still, she couldn't help feeling a little thankful. The sun beat down on her as she stood in the middle of the dusty Hyuga training ground, her mind racing as she imagined what she would possibly say to him. What does one say to someone who is leaving for a long period time? What does one say to someone they hardly know, but still feel so close to? Are you still here? Hinata heard a voice from within the house. Startled, Hinata raced from the house and through the village. People stepped out of her way as she kicked up dust running through the dirt streets, and she didn't stop until she reached the front gate. The moment she eyed him, her heart stopped and she quickly hid behind the street lamp as she watched the familiar loudmouth, yellow-haired, shinobi. He was talking to Jiraiya, one of the largest men Hinata had ever seen, and the fact that he was Senin made him even more intimidating. All the different scenarios that had run through her mind earlier came flooding back, and all Hinata could do was imagine herself being strong enough to approach him and say goodbye. Like acquaintances, like friends, like two people who had grown up together. Hinata nervously played with her fingers, forcing herself to build up the courage to say goodbye. She continued to watch them as her mind ran rampant. Although they were only 12 years old, he had the strength and determination equal to any shinobi in the village. Hinata knew that one day, he would be the greatest ninja and man the village had ever seen. The sun began to set as the two figures finally headed out of the front gates of Konoha. A soft voice whispered, "Goodbye, Naruto," as a single tear fell down Hinata's cheek. She hadn't done it, she hadn't found the courage to say what she wanted, she was too weak, too shy, and now he was gone and he would never know she had been the only one to see him off. Hinata stood in the same spot long after the two were visible, even by her Byakugan. 3 years. It will take 3 years before I'll see you again. Will you still be the same Naruto? Hey Hinata. Hinata jumped. The thoughts of Naruto were pushed out of her mind as she caught sight of Kiba walking toward her, a small white bundle riding on top of his hooded head. Hey, are you waiting for someone? He asked as he looked around. Oh, no, I was just, well I. Hinata stammered as all her feelings rushed together to form one giant mass of confusion within her. A grin spread across Kiba's face as he watched the small crease in her brow form. That's all right, you don't have to tell me. Kiba laughed. I was looking for you anyway. Why you were? Hinata flushed. Kiba absently began petting Akamaru, as the sun drifted slowly out of sight, leaving behind a sea of oranges and yellows. Yeah, well, I knew that today would probably be hard for you, so I thought I could hang out with you, like we could get something to eat or something. Hinata gave Kiba a slight smile. Okay, I guess. Hinata responded tentatively. Should we invite Shino? I already did, he wanted to come, but he had to stay with his family, something about working on the family jutsu with his father. Oh, I see. Hinata frowned at Kiba's answer. I hope he doesn't think this is a date. Well then, maybe we could go to the roller rink. I've never been there. Alright, Kiba said enthusiastically. I'll take Akamaru home and I'll come by to get you in about an hour. Kiba turned around to leave, then paused in mid-stride. You'll be at your house, right? Yes. Hinata smirked at her friend as he nodded his head in acknowledgement and swiftly made his way home through the crowd. Hinata went the opposite direction, slowly making her way back through the village, while thoughts of Naruto took over her mind. Kiba's here for you. Neji found Hinata laying on her bed staring up at the ceiling. Tell him I'll be right there. Hinata waited for her cousin to leave the room before she reluctantly sat up. He had ruined such a wonderful daydream. It was 3 years from now and she had gone out into the village to grab some ingredients for her dinner that night. While she was perusing through one of the food stands, she felt a sharp bump and she fell to the ground. She scrambled to pick up the fallen fruits and vegetables, when a familiar voice rang through her ears. I'm sorry, let me help you, but the voice wasn't the same, it was deeper, huskier, more mature than the younger version she remembered so vividly. Hinata's heart fluttered at the sound of his words, although she didn't dare look up. After he had finished reloading the basket, his attention quickly turned to her and he offered her his hand. Here, let me help you up. As Hinata reached for the familiar man's hand, she dared herself to look up into his face. Her heart beat rapidly, sending a waterfall of feelings throughout her entire body as she stared into the older, but familiar blue eyes of her smiling yellow-haired shinobi. As he helped her off the ground, Hinata just stared. Are you okay, miss? He asked as he rubbed the back of his en in the same familiar way. En Naruto, Hinata gasped, paralyzed by her own feelings. Hinata, is that you? Naruto asked in surprise. You look different. Hinata quickly looked down to hide the color that was pulling on her cheeks. Is that bad? She asked softly. And no, Naruto backpedaled. I just meant that you've grown so beautiful. Hinata felt his finger underneath her chin and allowed him to guide her face until she was looking at him. She was ensnared in his eyes and couldn't look away, even if she wanted to. She was about to open her mouth to speak, when Neji came to her door, completely destroying her wonderful dream. Hinata forced herself out of bed and double-checked her face in the mirror. There was no trace of the tears she had shed earlier that day, but her face still seemed sad. Wait, no, not sad, it was missing something. As Hinata gazed at her reflection, bits and pieces of her daydream began flashing through her mind. His eyes had been warm and welcoming in her daydream, while hers were the same blank void orbs they had always been. There was nothing she could do about her eyes, they would always be blank and full of nothing. Hinata stared intently at her face in the mirror, but, she wondered as she played with her hair, maybe there is something more I could do. Hinata, she heard her cousin's voice. Coming, she answered back as loud as she could and she grabbed the black coin purse from the top of her dresser and ran down the hall. Hinata and Kiba made their way through the crowded skating rink. Most of the people their age were there. Sakura skated around the flashing rink with Rock Lee, while Choji and Ino sat in a corner trying to speak to one another over the music. The only people missing were Neji, Shino and Shikamaru. So what do you want to do first? Kiba asked as he looked down at Hinata. I don't know, what do you want to do? Hinata began fidgeting her fingers. It made her uncomfortable to be put on the spot. Kiba watched his friend with a smile on his face. It's your choice, Hinata. This is your cheering up night, so we're gonna do what you want first. Kiba asserted. Well, I guess we could skate first, then we could play some games. Hinata nervously eyed the skating rink. Sounds good. Kiba agreed and he escorted Hinata toward the floor. Kiba slowly skated next to Hinata as she clung to the wall. Her feet were moving in choppy spurts and she was afraid she would fall if she let go. Patiently, Kiba showed Hinata how to push her foot out in a longer and more graceful movement and he held onto her elbow as she practiced the longer movement around the ring. Still, she continued to hold onto the wall with her free hand. I think you can let go now. Kiba urged. Hinata looked back at him, terror in her eyes. Come on, Hinata, I'll be right here, I won't let you fall. Kiba's eyes were full of sincere confidence. Hinata closed her eyes, took a deep breath and lifted her hand off the wall. She began to wobble and felt one of her feet come out from under her, but instead of the hard thud she expected, she landed softly into Kiba's chest and he gently put her back onto her feet. I told you I wouldn't let you fall. He whispered in her ear. Hinata ignored the intimate gesture and looked straight ahead, concentrating on her feet. Gradually Hinata learned how to skate by herself and soon Kiba had her chasing after him. When she was able to keep up with him, he decided it was time for them to play some games. The two played red light green light with some of the other ninjas, and Hinata had to grab onto Kiba every time someone yelled red light, just so she could stop. Kiba would help her by putting an arm around her waist, or wrapping his hands around her shoulder, but Hinata never noticed. The game ended when Choji couldn't stop on a red light and he skated right into Ino. Ino responded with a right-handed slap and everyone quietly dispersed as Ino cut into Choji. After the game, Hinata and Kiba raced each other around the rink. Kiba won the first few times, but Hinata was pleased to win the last few, although she had a sneaking suspicion he had let her win. "I'm tired," Hinata told Kiba as they skated around the rink. "Do you want to stop?" he shouted back over the music. "Yeah, we could play some games or something," Hinata offered. Kiba nodded his head in acknowledgement and led Hinata off of the floor and over to the gaming area. "All right," Kiba shouted once they entered the arcade, "air hockey my favorite." Hinata looked around the arcade and watched as Kiba made his way over to a white table in the middle of the room. "What's air hockey?" Hinata asked, confused by her friend's reaction. "Only the best game ever, here let me show you," he offered as Hinata joined him at the table. Kiba gave Hinata one of the hitting pieces and put the puck on the table. "Basically you want to hit that puck into the hole on my side of the table, but I want to try and stop you. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. I'll let you try first," Kiba offered. Hinata hesitated before reaching across the table and hitting the puck at Kiba. Kiba responded swiftly and knocked the puck straight back at Hinata and into her goal. "Don't worry, you'll get better, but now you have the idea right." Kiba spent the rest of the night showing Hinata how to hit the puck and how to place it where she wanted on the board. Once she got the hang of it, they played a few games. Hinata laughed and smiled as she watched the puck slide into Kiba's goal and cringed as he shot the puck right back. "This is so much fun," she said, then paused. "I didn't know you liked this game." Kiba shrugged. "There's a lot you don't know about me. But we're teammates," Hinata said defensively. "So?" Kiba shrugged again. "I don't know, I guess I just thought I knew you better because I see you every day." Hinata sputtered. "We do know a lot about each other, at least the important stuff, Hinata," Kiba said comfortingly. "Like if I were hurting I wouldn't be able to hide it from you and Shino, right?" Hinata thought about what he said for a moment and barely opened her mouth. "Right," she said softly. "The same with me. If you or Shino were hurting I would know too. This other stuff is just that, other stuff, but you guys are closer to me than anyone else our age because we spend so much time together. I know that you guys will always have my back and I'll always have yours because we're friends." Hinata smiled. "Do you really believe that?" she asked hopefully. "You know I do." Kiba winked at her and flashed her a wide smile, then glanced down at his watch. "Are you ready to go home? It's starting to get late." "I guess I'm getting a little tired," Hinata admitted. Kiba and Hinata walked in silence as they made their way down the deserted streets of Konoha. The street lamps gave off a warm and inviting glow and Hinata felt the weight of the day's events. It had been hard for her to say goodbye to Naruto, but Kiba did a good job of keeping her occupied. She had to admit that she even had fun. Hinata shuddered as a slight breeze passed by them and Kiba silently wrapped her in his warm jacket. As she snuggled into the woolly lining of Kiba's coat, Hinata wondered what tonight would have been like if she had gone out with Naruto. Would Naruto think they were friends? They hardly ever saw each other, but she had felt close to him through the small interactions they had. Her mind instantly wandered to the day she fought Neji during the Chunin exams. She had only stood up to Neji because of Naruto's faith in her and she liked to think that she had a small part in his defeat over Neji. She had spoken to him briefly before the fight. Naruto had been uncertain of himself and Hinata liked to think that she had helped see how strong he is again. As Hinata's thoughts lingered on Naruto, she remembered the daydream she had earlier and his piercing blue eyes. Why couldn't her eyes hold more substance? When she had looked in the mirror, all she saw was Neji's stoic eyes staring back at her. The mirror. Hinata contemplated the idea she had earlier as she stared at herself in that mirror. She had a strong urge to ask Kiba about it, but she wasn't sure. "Kiba," she quietly began, "did you really mean what you said about us being friends?" "Of course I did, Hinata." Kiba gave her an inquisitive look. "Can I ask you a question?" "What is it, Hinata?" Kiba's voice was full of concern. Please don't laugh, but I don't have any girlfriends and I need to ask someone. Hinata looked at him from the corner of her eyes. I'm deeply intrigued now. Kiba laughed. What's so important that it can't wait for you to find a girl to ask? Well, you see. Hinata instinctively began to play with her fingers. It's just that you're a boy and you might have a better idea about it, that's all. Okay, so what is it, Hinata? Kiba's eyes narrowed in a worried expression while his hood shadowed his face. Well, what do you think of my hair? Hinata blurted out and immediately turned a shade of pink. Kiba chuckled. It's short, why? Kiba was becoming increasingly uncomfortable with conversation. He didn't know anything about hair. Where was her house? Shouldn't it be somewhere around all this foliage? Hinata shook her head. That's not what I meant. I mean, should I grow it out? As a guy you must have some idea of what a guy likes. Well, I don't know, Hinata. Maybe you should ask a girl about this stuff. I know that my sister and my mom have longer hair, but I've never really thought about it. Oh. Hinata gave a deflated sigh. They continued on in silence until they finally reached her house. Then Kiba turned to Hinata and she looked down at her feet. Why do you suddenly care about your hair? Kiba asked, breaking the silence. Oh, I was just wondering if I should grow it out, before, I just thought it might make me prettier. Kiba felt his heart break a little as the tiny Hyuga girl in front of him sputtered out these last words. He knew what she was asking. You can do whatever you like, Hinata, but you are pretty just the way you are, and one day he'll see it too, and if he doesn't, whoever he is, then he's dense. Kiba gently took Hinata in his arms and pressed her against him. Really, Kiba? Yes, Hinata. Thank you. She whimpered as she took his jacket off and handed it back. As she turned to go inside, he stopped her in her tracks. Wait, Hinata, I almost forgot. I got something for you to cheer you up, but you can't open it until you get inside, okay? Kiba began fumbling around in his pockets. Hinata gave Kiba a quizzical look. You have to promise or I won't give it to you. He pressed. I promise, Hinata said nervously. Hinata watched as Kiba reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a white envelope and handed it to her. Hope this makes you feel better, it's a gift from me and Shino. We thought it would help you when times get tough. Then he put his hooded jacket back on and inhaled her sweat scent. Good night, Hinata, he said as he turned to make his way back home. Hinata watched Kiba make his way down the dirt path and out of sight. Then she ran inside and into her room, shutting the door. Her heart raced as she looked at the plain white envelope in her hand. Quickly she tore the top off and pulled the contents of the envelope out. Hinata's heart stopped and her eyes began to water all over again as she stared at the photo in her hand. She could never have asked for a more perfect gift than the one she had received tonight. Kiba was right about friends and her heart swelled up as she stared into the face of her shinobi. She was not ready to say goodbye to him just yet, and she would never be ready to let go, 3 years or not. Hinata's last conscious thought was of his eyes, then she drifted off still clutching the picture to her Get up, boy, we're not done yet. Jiraiya chuckled as he circled around the young genin laying face down in front of him in the middle of the lush green forest. The boy groaned as he rubbed his head. Databayo, I haven't eaten for 3 days, can't we stop for something to eat, Ero Senin? This is part of your training, boy. How is starving me part of my training? I can't get off the ground because I'm so weak. How am I to perform any jutsus? Naruto complained. If you are too weak to fight without food now, boy, perhaps you are too weak to protect Konoha, perhaps you are too weak to be called a ninja. Naruto felt a twinge of emotion spark inside his belly as he listened to these words. I am not too weak. You pervy sage. I will be the strongest ninja in Konoha someday. Someday, I will be Hokage. He shouted defiantly. A Hokage who cannot protect his village unless he is properly fed. Even the Hokage must make do with what she has in a fight or on a mission. What does that mean, pervy sage? No one can fight in this condition. Naruto shot back. Jiraiya sighed. This would be harder than he thought. As a ninja, you will not always have the luxury of a ramen shop, Naruto. Then I will make sure to pack all that I need. Are you dense, Naruto, or are you trying my patience on purpose? Even the cleverest ninja cannot anticipate exactly how many supplies he will need, and not every mission goes according to plan. Naruto. A seemingly simple mission that should only take days may change its course at the drop of a kunai. What will you do then, Naruto? What will you do when your day's worth of food has dissipated into a month's worth of battle? What will you do then, Naruto? Give up? Let your comrades rest because you are too weak to go on? Naruto felt the twinge inside his belly grow. Each word Jiraiya spoke fueled the fire. Soon Naruto could not hold back the infernal inside him anymore. He felt the internal power taking over his body. He would not let his comrades rest. He was not weak. Jiraiya stood in horror at the monster that stood before him. Naruto. Naruto, listen to me. You have to fight back this beast, this demon. The QB does not make you strong. The QB feeds on your weakness. The QB just snarled in reply as the flames from the nine-tailed fox swirled around and shot out in every direction. Naruto. Listen to me, boy. You have to suppress this demon, you have to take back control, that's the only way you will become stronger. Jiraiya heard a loud growl, and before he could react, the QB was upon him, battering him with its fiery paws. Jiraiya quickly pulled his scroll from behind his back and wiped the blood from his chest across it. Then Jiraiya performed the summoning jutsu he hoped would save him. In no time the chief toad was there by his side. QB. The large toad cried in alarm as he quickly scanned the area. He spotted Jiraiya just underneath the hulking demon. Jiraiya. I need you to hold the demon down while I replace the seal. The trapped ninja ordered. But, I cannot hold him down, I will be burned, Jiraiya. The toad said indignantly. Please. Jiraiya choked out as the QB slammed another paw directly into his chest. Why do you always summon me to these places? The toad complained as he rushed the QB into a tree. Now, Jiraiya. Before it's too late, the chief shouted as the QB's power began drying out his amphibious skin and turning it to ash. Jiraiya held out his hand and a white light began to emanate at the tip of each finger as he said the name of each seal. Light, dark, peace, war, relief. Then Jiraiya ran straight for the QB with all of his strength. I cannot hold on any longer. The charred toad cried as he unleashed the QB on his friend and watched helplessly as the two collided into the other. The toad turned away and listened to the explosion. Slowly, he turned around and found Jiraiya's body lying next to the young boy. He looked no older than 13 and he had blonde spiky hair. Without hesitation, the frog took the two unconscious shinobi and left them where they would be safe before disappearing. Jiraiya, Naruto breathed as he floated into consciousness. Where am I? What happened? Naruto lifted a hand to rub his eyes before opening them. He did not recognize where he was as his gaze fell upon the open window, the plain white walls, and the empty cupboard standing in front of his bed. It wasn't until his eyes came upon the IV sticking out of his arm that it dawned on him. Jiraiya, I must go to him. Naruto quickly sat up in his bed, only to be stopped by the sharp pain in his head. Naruto winced and tried to rub the headache away. What is this? Naruto's stomach was bumpy and red all around his seal. Almost as if it were fresh. Jiraiya, what happened? Naruto pulled the IV from his arm and forced himself out of the bed. He had to find Jiraiya. Naruto searched the rooms up and down the hall of his floor, but he could not find the Sennin. Where could he have gone? Did he leave? No, he couldn't have. Naruto felt it. Bravely he made his way to the main desk on his floor. I am looking for a man named Jiraiya. The woman behind the desk eyed Naruto up and down. There is no one here by that name. The woman dismissively turned her head back to the crossword puzzle she had been solving. No. Naruto slammed his hands down. He has to be here. He's a big guy with long, white hair and maroon-colored stays running down his cheeks. Oh, him. He's on the first floor, where the rest of the patients are. She informed him without looking up. Naruto's eyes widened at her words and he sprinted down the hall toward the elevator. He can't be. No, he couldn't be. He just had to be all right. Naruto impatiently waited for the elevator to reach the first floor, then he ran down the narrow hallway, frantically searching for Jiraiya. When he finally found him, he wasn't awake and he was hooked up to a ventilator. There was a charred hole in his chest. It appeared that the doctors had tried to treat it, but couldn't. Naruto made his way to Jiraiya's side. He put his hand out to lightly touch him, his eyes filled with tears. Dual emotions rose inside Naruto. What happened? Did he do this? He laid his head on Jiraiya's hand and allowed the water to flow freely from his eyes. He couldn't remember what had happened, but he knew it was his fault. "En Naruto," a soft voice spoke. Naruto's heart leaped, but quickly subsided when he lifted his head to look at his sensei. "Jiraiya, did I do this?" Naruto wondered as he absently looked at the wall above Jiraiya's head. He didn't want to hear the truth. Jiraiya turned his head away, then weakly answered. "Yes, but how?" Naruto stuttered. "You lost control of yourself, Naruto." Jiraiya lectured the boy from his hospital bed. "You allowed the QB to feed on your weakness and take over. But I couldn't do it on my own." Naruto tried to make Jiraiya see how weak he had been. He couldn't continue training on his power alone. "Naruto, you have to learn to rely on yourself and the people around you. Only then will you become strong." But how do I do that?" "I can only tell you what you need to know, boy. Unfortunately, you'll have to figure out how to tap into your strength on your own. It is a personal journey and everybody's is different. Everyone arrives at personal strength through different means, boy. Until you find yours, it looks like I'll have to change my training technique, so that we don't risk you going QB again." "Will it happen again?" Naruto asked in horror. Jiraiya stared up at Naruto, studying his face. "It shouldn't. The seal I put on you should hold, but in case it doesn't, I'll have to give you something so you can control the demon yourself." Hinata woke up still holding onto his picture, just like she did every morning since he left. She brought the now slightly wrinkled image of Naruto to her face. "Don't give up," she silently chanted to herself, then she kissed the picture and tucked it inside her pillowcase. As Hinata began to stretch, she heard a knock on her door. "Come in." Hinata was greeted by the sight of her younger sister. She looked almost identical to Hinata, but while Hinata was timid and shy, with a feminine gracefulness, Hanabi was more certain of herself and her presence demanded attention. Hanabi drank in the sight of her sister still in bed and gave her a disapproving look. "Father wants a word with you in his study." "Oh, he does. What about?" "I don't know, but it seemed urgent." With that, Hanabi left Hinata to hurriedly throw on some clothes and brush her teeth. Before she ran out the door, she took one last look in the mirror and stopped. In the months that had passed since Naruto had left, she had been so caught up in her grief she hadn't noticed how much her hair had grown. It was dancing below her jawline now and she couldn't just get up and go anymore. It was unkempt and needed to be brushed. Quickly Hinata grabbed a comb and ran it through her hair, all the while admiring the way it fell back down in place and framed her face with each stroke. When she finished, she quickly checked out the final product and allowed a satisfied smile to spread across her face before she rushed to see her father, Hiashi Hyuga. "Hey Shino, what's up with Hinata?" Kiba inquired after their friend. All three of them had meet up at Team 8's designated training ground and they were methodically alternating between team tactics and personal combat moves. They easily switched between the two, like a well-choreographed dance. "What do you mean?" Shino asked as he jumped backward in the air and landed on the closest tree branch. "I mean she's acting different, don't you see it?" Kiba grunted out the last words as he launched himself in a less advanced version of Fang over Fang toward Shino. "You mean her newfound dedication?" Shino absently threw an attack towards Hinata. She had been sitting down taking a rest, but when the group trained, there was no rest. Besides, didn't she just ask them to come at her with all they had? Deceiving her into thinking he wasn't paying attention to her was the best way to take her by surprise. Shino simultaneously threw a right at Kiba, as they conversed under the shield of practicing their taijutsu. "Yeah, I mean, after Naruto left she was more energized about improving herself, but today it's not the same. It's like she's gone mad with idea of becoming stronger." Kiba's eyebrow rose as he tried to revise Hinata's intentions. "I know what you mean." Shino acknowledged Kiba's observations about their comrade as he dodged a Kamaru's attack from behind and watched the bugs he had called out earlier rain down on Hinata. Hinata swiftly hopped into her fighting stance and started her now infamous 8 palms jutsu. "She wants us to come at her with everything we have, but why? Something must have happened to trigger this type of response in her." As Hinata finished off the last of Shino's bugs, Kiba sent a Kamaru at Hinata, after giving him a pill, then Kiba threw another cross at Shino. "She must be getting tired, we've been going at it for hours now. No shinobi we encounter will be able to keep up this pace for very long." Kiba brushed the sweat from his forehead. Maybe Kiba, but it's best to be prepared for anything. Still, I think that you might be right about stopping for rest. Maybe we could find out what has sparked this new obsession in Hinata. Right, Kiba concurred. Kiba and Shino quit their attacks on each other and turned their attention to Hinata, who was still trying to shake a very persistent Akamaru. Shino moved his bugs in mass and surrounded Hinata while Kiba called back Akamaru. Then, Kiba and Akamaru barreled through Shino's bugs straight toward Hinata in fang over fang. Exhausted by all the chakra she had spent fighting off Shino's bugs earlier, Hinata could do nothing more but watch as Kiba and Akamaru plowed into her. Hinata tightly shut her eyes and waited for the heavy impact, but none came. As Kiba sailed by her, he scooped Hinata up and cradled her to his chest as his back collided with the tree. When the dust settled and Hinata regained her composure, she realized where she was and quickly jumped up and turned around. Thank you, Kiba. It seems I still have a long way to go before I can stand on my own. Hinata's eyes automatically fell to the ground in shame. Who told you that? Kiba insisted. It's just the truth, Kiba, don't act like you don't know it. I do nothing but hinder our team, I am weak and useless. Hinata thought about the conversation she had earlier with her father. If you really were weak, Hinata, you never would have been accepted as a genin Kaneki. Hinata flushed at Shino's words. Did he really mean them? Besides, we have bigger things to worry about, Hinata, Kiba continued. We need to work with each other as much as we can so that we'll blast through the Chunin exam this time. Kiba flashed Hinata a smile and she quickly looked down. I suppose you guys are right, but I still need to get stronger so that I don't drag you two down with me. She instantly began fiddling with her fingers. You're not gonna drag us down, Hinata, you're a teammate and no one else would ever be able to fill your shoes. Kiba tried a different tactic. Yes, with you, Hinata, our team is the best recon team out there. No other team has the tracking ability we do. Shino added, wanting to help cheer up the teammate. Hinata went quiet. Her teammates genuinely believed in her, so why didn't anyone else? She had to prove that she was strong to everybody else, especially Naruto. Naruto. At the thought of his name, Hinata's resolve began to harden again. She couldn't let him be taken away from her so easily. Well, shouldn't we continue to train for the Chunin exam? It's only in the next couple of months after all. Hinata asked, her newfound courage shining through. Don't worry, we will. Kiba answered. But we've been training all day, we were going to quit soon anyway. Oh. Hinata's eyes went down again. I'm not ready to quit yet. It's best if we stop for today. Shino interjected. Don't forget that rest is an essential part of training, Hinata. Why don't you, Kiba and I meet up here again tomorrow? We're ending so soon. Hinata cried, panic in her voice. We've already been here for hours, Hinata, and I promised my father I'd be back to continue working on our family jutsu. Shino explained. Oh. Hinata hung her head. But don't worry, Hinata, how about we work on making another jutsu for you tomorrow? Since you want to get stronger. Kiba appeased. Well, I guess. Hinata reluctantly agreed. She looked up at the sky and saw the sun lowering in the sky. It's that late already. Maybe it's best if we did stop now, she thought. There's something that I have to do before the sun goes down anyway. I want to make it back home before the light is completely gone. Till tomorrow, Shino said as he turned and walked away. Kiba and Hinata watched their teammate turn the corner and vanish from sight, then Kiba turned to Hinata. So, I was thinking, since I don't have anything to do today, that I, could go with you while you do whatever it is that you need to do. What was it again? Kiba scratched his head and gave her a cool smile. Well, yeah, I guess you can come, Kiba, I was just going to buy a locket on my way home. Hinata told him. Oh yeah, why? Kiba really was curious now. Hinata instantly began to fidget. She didn't feel entirely comfortable telling Kiba what the locket was for, so she settled for a half-truth. It's so that I can keep my strength close to my heart. Today it seems that I need more of a reminder of it than I did in the past. She hastily spilled out the last part and resumed her customary position with her eyes downcast. Oh. Well, I think I can help. Kiba's face brightened, he knew exactly where to take her. Kiba led Hinata to a little jewelry shop tucked away in the edges of Konoha. Hinata eyed the place suspiciously. It looked deserted. The roof was in desperate need of repairs and one of the windows had been knocked out and replaced with a jumble of wood. How do you know about this place? She asked as she eyes the dilapidated exterior. Let's just say that he's a friend of the family. As Kiba finished talking, he opened the door to the little building and pushed Hinata inside the dingy old building. Hinata held her breath at the unexpected sight in front of her. All around, showcased in the highest quality glass, was the biggest selection of fine jewelry Hinata had ever seen in Konoha. She had never seen such lovely pieces, even at the high-end retail stores found in the central business district of Konoha. Go ahead, choose whichever piece you'd like. Kiba nudged Hinata. But I can't afford any of this, she protested. Don't worry, it's on the house. On the house. Hinata gave Kiba a confused stare. That's right, little miss, it's on the house. Any friend of Kiba's is a friend of mine, just as long you don't forget to tell people where you got it from. Now what are you looking for? Hinata stared at the wild-haired, dark-eyed man behind the counter and immediately began playing with her fingers. Kiba just gave his ever-knowing smile as he looked at Hinata, then answered the man. We're looking for a heart locket, right Hinata? A heart locket? Why yes. The man stared at Kiba and Hinata then began to fumble with the keys in his hand. I've got just the thing for your girlfriend Kiba. Hinata blushed furiously at the stranger's words. Oh, she's not my girlfriend Ryoga, she's my teammate. I told her that I'd help her find a locket. Oh, sorry, my mistake. What kind of locket do you need? What? Hinata shyly looked away from the man. Do you need a locket of gold, one that opens, one with diamonds, hun? What are you looking for? Hinata hadn't realized there were so many types of lockets before, she just needed one that opened. Hinata began to feel woozy under the pressure. She needs one that opens. Kiba chimed in. Okay, a locket that opens coming right up. The man quickly opened one of the cases, picked out an item and gingerly put the silver locket into Hinata's hands. Hinata just stared down at it. She hadn't seen anything more beautiful. The chain and heart were the same silver as her eyes and right in the center sat a smaller ruby heart. Carefully Hinata caressed the end lace in her hand and found a small bump. She applied a little pressure and she felt the bump slide down and the locket pop open. Hinata smiled and looked up at Kiba. How much is it? It's on the house, the man said roughly. But I have money, I couldn't possibly. Look, it's on the house. Any friend of Kiba's is a friend of mine, just make sure you let people know where you got it, girly. Send a little business my way and we'll be even. The man turned around and headed toward the back of the shop. But Kiba pushed Hinata out the door and thanked Ryoga before she had any more time to protest. Why did he do that? Hinata looked at Kiba, curiosity filling her silver eyes. Let's just say he owed me a favor. Kiba grinned that familiar grin. What do you mean he owed you a favor? What did you do? Well, I kinda set him up with my sister. He'd been trying to go out with her for years and I offered him that extra push. Oh, so now you can just get whatever you want. No, not exactly. It was really just a one-time deal. I don't really have anyone to give anything to, and I don't need jewelry for myself, so it was a no-brainer letting you take my reward. I mean, you need it more than I do anyway. I don't know anyone else who carries their inner strength with them in such a small package. Kiba gave Hinata a knowing look and she quickly turned away. Speaking of strength, why were you so upset about not being strong enough earlier? Did something happen to you? Kiba's wild eyes turned soft with sympathy. No, I just don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, I'm still more of hindrance than an asset to you and Shino. Hinata repeated her words from earlier. She couldn't let him, not just yet. That's not true, Hinata. Besides, even if you ever were, over the last few months you've begun to grow into one of the strongest Kaneki I've ever seen. I don't care what the reason is for you improving your skills, but one day I hope you can see how strong you are. Still, I just can't help feeling like you're not telling me something. Kiba had many senses, and being able to feel insincerity, no matter how good-willed, was one of them. Hinata flinched at his accusation and she remembered the conversation she had with him the night Naruto left. You can't hide anything from your teammates, he had said, and apparently he was right. Suddenly a surge of guilt ran through Hinata. Why was she trying to hide her life from Kiba and Shino? They just wanted to be there for her. It's true, Kiba, something did happen today, but I'm not ready to tell you about it yet. Please tell me you understand. How can I understand something I know nothing about? Just help me, please. Help me find the strength I need to be a great Kaneki, but for now, I can't tell you anything else. So if nothing else, please respect my wishes. Kiba just nodded his head in agreement. He didn't understand at all. Maybe Shino would know. Thanks, Kiba. Friend's right. She smiled up at him as she scratched Akamaru behind the ear. Kiba swallowed the large lump that had formed in tea. Friends, he said as he forced a smile. Then he watched Hinata run down the path toward the great Hyuga property. Hinata quickly ran to her room and shut the door behind her. Hastily she grabbed her pillow and reached inside its case. There she found what she was looking for. Carefully she made the incisions around his face, then gently placed the tiny heart-shaped figure inside her locket and fastened it around her N. The piece fell just above her heart, and she smiled. I won't give up, she quietly chanted to herself as her heart burned with the heavy weight of her strength. I cannot leave you, Naruto. I won't let him make me. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.